Today we're joined by Sergio Silesky. I think I said that right. We practice on the actual episode, so whatever I said during the actual episode, that's what we're gonna go with. And I think we talk about it, but we met him at WealthCon, which is a big Ryan Pineda event out in Las Vegas. He runs a house cleaning business that has grown into a bigger business. So now there's men.
Where are you going with this?
It's not a pyramid scheme.
No, he teaches people how to make a lot of money with cleaning businesses. And we can relate to this because we need this in Green Bay for our Airbnb.
Yeah, for sure. And so it's cool. You know, he's not a nurse, but some of the people that he has taught through his academy that he's created with his business partner are nurses. And they specialize in creating these businesses and being able to run them remotely without having to do any of the cleaning yourself. So for somebody that's already working a full-time job and just needs a little supplemental income, this could be a great option. So it's a really interesting interview. Well, welcome to the Investing RN podcast. Today we are talking to Sergio Silesky, who we kind of met by chance at a conference in Vegas back in October, I believe. And he was supposed to be at the business table at this dinner we went to, but he ended up at the real estate table, which worked out for us. So we're excited to have you today. He runs a bunch of stuff, but one of them's like cleaning business out of Vegas. He's got a academy that he teaches, and he's been doing this for about, I think, 6 years, and he'll give you better details. But Sergio, welcome.
Thanks for the intro, Colin. Yeah, man, like I was pretty confused when I got to that conference and then they threw me in the real estate table. I'm like, you have the wrong guy. But they're like, just sit there. And I'm like, whatever, man. And then, yeah, I met you guys. So I think it worked out.
Yeah, for sure.
So yeah, tell us about just like kind of where you're from and what got you into the business world.
All right. So growing up, I knew nothing about business. I'm actually like the oldest of 11 total kids. So I come from a really big family. And my path was always like get good grades, go to college, and that's what I wanted to do. So then I ended up getting into Cal Poly Pomona. I lived in SoCal, and I was good at math. I was like, I'll try engineering, and so I get into civil engineering, and that's bridges, buildings, roads, things like that. And as I'm going through the motions, I was always, like low income. I moved out when I was 17 years old and I had to figure it out. And that forced me to like go look for jobs. I was looking for jobs, literally could not get a job to save my life. Like McDonald's didn't want to hire me. And I'm like, what the heck? Like, what's going on? And around this time, my best friend from high school, Johnny, he like comes up to me with this idea. He's like, did you know like you could just start a business? And like, I'm like, no, I don't really know anything about business. And he's like, would you be down to start one? And at the time I'm like, not really. Like I'm planning to get a good job out of college. Like why be risky and start a business? But I started like looking into it, and that combined with like me not being able to get like a minimum wage job was kind of like the catalyst to me being like, how about I just make my own money, like not have to like rely on like some crappy job that I'm not going to like anyways. And so that sparked the idea of like starting a business with him. And we started, cleaning windows, $150 all in, $75 each, order some supplies on Amazon, watch some YouTube videos. And we just started going door to door in Orange County, California, to sell window cleaning for like $10, $20 to like these storefronts. So like that's how I got into business. Fast forward to now, you kind of mentioned Home Service Academy. Basically, we ran that business throughout college. It was more of a side hustle for us at first, but then we saw the path to it being a lot bigger. And as we kind of grew the business, we just learned more and more about like hiring, marketing, sales, things like that. So we got to a point where, it was doing $700,000 a year. We sold it and we're like, what do we do now? We're trying to like figure out what was the next business for us that was going to take us to like the next huge step, like $10 million. And that's when we stumbled upon like remote house cleaning, because we didn't really have a name for it before, but we started hiring contractors instead of employees. And that allowed us to just get out of the field and not have to clean the windows ourselves. And everyone was asking us like, how'd you do that? And that just naturally led us to like start Home Service Academy, where we started teaching people how to do it. So, yeah.
Thanks. So you talked about your first introduction to business, and you were kind of like, I'll pass. Like, I'll take the traditional route. I'll go get a good job. Like, I know engineering is a good job. And I think that's typical of just, I don't know, Americans, I guess, these days. Like, you go to school and you go get a good job, and you only have really one option. There's not a whole lot of people that are born to start businesses. And that's something I wasn't introduced until I guess I met Colin. We started buying real estate a little bit. So what mentally, like, what did you have to go through to come to terms with, okay, yeah, it's time to start a business? I know you said you couldn't get a job at McDonald's, which that would do it, I guess. But talk about that mindset that you had to kind of go through before you were ready to do that.
Dude, you're right. Like, I wasn't born to be an entrepreneur. I was never that kid that sold candy bars or like started the lemonade stand. I didn't really know about that. Even my mom, when I was starting the business itself, like I had the idea, she was like, no, you shouldn't do that. Like, business is hard. It's risky. Like, you'll see that, you're probably going to fail. Like, she was like, and at the time I was more like frustrated, and I'm like, well, you don't believe in me. I'm going to do it anyways. Like, chip on my shoulder type of thing. Now looking back on it, I see there was like, your people around you that love you, they want to protect you. And like, to them, if they don't really understand like the whole like perspective of business, like from the outside, it looks risky, but now I know that it's not as risky as people make it out to be. So, in terms of like the mindset shift, I don't think there was like a huge mindset shift, just because I had college. So it didn't feel like at the time I was going like all in, like risking everything. I still had college, and it was more of like a side thing. But yeah, I mean, over time I did see like that was the path that was going to help me get to like the next level, not just making, 70, 100K a year, but like making millions potentially. Right.
No, was this after you had your degree, when you were looking for any old job and couldn't find one? Or was this in the middle?
This was me like 19 years old, like freshman, sophomore in college.
Okay. So this was during college when you decided to partner up with your best friend and start this company, right?
Yeah.
All right. So you kind of threw some numbers at us. You said you got it to 700,000. So that's like gross income, right? So what does that look like for you? Like, how much of that did you actually see? Was most of it going to your employees or your contractors or marketing? Or what did that look like if you break it down a little bit more?
Yeah, that's a good question. So at the time when we were doing like 700K, I want to say on average, me personally, like take home income, I was probably making around like 8 to 10K per month. And then like that was like me and my friend Johnny splitting the profits in half. So in general, like the remote cleaning business, the way that it works is like you hire the contractors and you pay them around 40 to 50% of the job. To make numbers easy, we'll just say 50%. So if you can sell $10,000 in jobs, then your cut is $5,000. And then like, if you put some money into marketing and things like that, if you have a healthy cleaning business, you should at the end of the day take home like around 30 to 40%. So like on the 10K, it'd be like 3 to 4K.
And this you're still talking about your window cleaning business right now, right?
Yeah. Like just, window cleaning or house cleaning in general, like they have the same model.
Okay. And so you started doing cleaning the windows yourself. At what point did you decide to hire somebody and try to grow that from just you walking around doing window cleaning?
Yeah, I mean, it really came out of necessity, because we realized we can only clean so many windows, and we were like starting to like pick up traction and get more and more jobs, and we were just like, how do we clean more windows? And so the first couple hires were like the worst hires, because it was like our friends, our cousins, like just anybody that we knew, we'd be like, can you help us clean windows? And it was through like that process that we started to learn how to like actually manage people. But a lot of lessons learned in that process.
And as you were starting out, because you said you were going door to door, and that's how you're getting the majority of your jobs. Like once you kind of got to this point where you're busier and you're having to hire a team, how did you change your marketing strategy?
So we met these house cleaners in Orange County, and they actually like kind of changed our lives by accident because they were killing it. They were crushing it on Yelp. And they're like, you guys should really get on Yelp. You guys should get a ton of reviews. And then that's how we get a lot of our jobs. So that's what we did. Got on Yelp, started getting reviews, and Yelp convinced us to start spending a little bit of money on advertising. And next thing you know, like our phones were just like nonstop ringing. And that summer of like, I want to say it was like 2020. No, 2019. Yeah, that first summer where we had Yelp on, it just went bananas. So yeah, we definitely shifted to more like online marketing and
And
advertising.
it's just kind of continued from there. And then as the team grew, like, did you have? You said you were doing like just friends and family and whoever essentially would kind of join you, and then you had to reshape that. So what did that look like? What was your new hiring process? How did you guys figure that out?
Man, it was through. I have way too many stories of like hiring the worst people. Like, it's funny. Me and Johnny just like talked about it on our podcast. Like a couple of the horror stories of like employees not showing up, employees, crashing our truck. There was even this one time an employee did drugs in a person's house. Like the worst things you could like imagine, right? But it was through that process that we had to learn the hard way of like how to hire and like who not to hire and how to vet those people out. So yeah, I mean, eventually we went to like Indeed, and I mean, one thing to know from Indeed is like you're looking for like the one or two good people out of 100. But like if you don't know that going into it, you look at the first 10 resumes and you start calling them, and a lot of these people were just not serious. Like they're just kicking rocks. So we had to learn all those lessons the hard way, especially us starting out as basically kids. We started when we were 19 years old, so we didn't have that like corporate experience or anything. So if someone has already had a job for a while, they're able to kind of like see things from like the big company's perspective. I think it could serve them, like it can benefit them in terms of like them starting a business because they can see how their company did it, right? And then just kind of replicate it in their own business. But me and Johnny didn't have that starting out so young.
No, so just like in terms of like, you didn't have any formal business training going into this, and how to hire, obviously, you figured that out. How to market, you figured that out. But just in terms of like structuring the business, like legally, how you were hiring employees, how you're paying employees, like, did you just figure that out on the fly, just watching YouTube? Like, did you ever hire a coach? How'd you go through all that?
Yeah, I mean, dude, with a lot of that stuff, it was definitely like trying to figure it out. Like, if I'm being honest, didn't even have an LLC for the first 2 years of business, right? It's like they don't teach you this stuff in school. So I think that's one thing that people kind of like overvalue when starting a business is like I have to have all these things figured out to like make money, to make it work. And I think me going into it so naive, so much like ignorance, it was almost like a blessing because I didn't get caught up on like those things like I gotta have an LLC or things like that because I was just so hungry. I just wanted to make money. So you don't need an LLC to go knock on a door and collect $20 from like the donut shop for cleaning the windows. You know what I mean? But like you do need it eventually, and you do figure it out. And there's like a ton of resources on YouTube for like how to do those things.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, and
yeah.
I think something you said like about not getting that education in school. That's like, you do get that education in school if you're a business major or if you're like, finance or something like that. But civil engineering, similar to nursing, like that's something that we didn't get in school, which kind of prompted us to want to start this podcast to be able to put that information out there because I think that analysis paralysis or whatever is what holds a lot of people up, and they're focused on like, oh yeah, I got to get the LLC, I got to do this, I got to do this before I can start. But yeah, being naive is sometimes a blessing, like you mentioned, because it's like you don't know what you don't know, and you just go out and do it. But yeah, I think it's a common thread in a lot of professions, unfortunately, just the lack of education on finance and business in general.
I think it's a little bit of that. And I think procrastination, or like some people sometimes call it like being a perfectionist, can sometimes be a form of like procrastination. And it really does stem from a fear of like failure. I don't want to fail. And like that's totally normal. But like you really just have to take action over everything. There was this one guy, he would always preach this term imperfect action. I always like that, because it's like, if you take, even if it's slightly the wrong action, it's still better than nothing at all. So start doing something.
Yeah, and you talked about your first several hires being difficult or just bad fits, and I think that's something that everybody goes through, whether you're starting a business or as we did, we started buying real estate, and the first several contractors that we used, not great, but with each bad hire, you figure out, well, what, like, I should have asked this question. With each new thing, you learn something new, and that's kind of, I guess, an advantage of starting out and not really having a whole lot to lose. You're okay with just learning along the way. You don't have like a ton of stuff to do, and that's something that we kind of preach to other nurses, that you have a great job that you can fall back on. If you need to take a little bit more time to make a few more mistakes and learn from those mistakes, there's always, and you as well had your degree that you could always go back to if you had to.
Yeah.
So how long did it take for you to get this first business to where you were ready to sell? And at what point did you realize that maybe it was a good time to sell?
Yeah. So this specific business that I sold, we were running it for about 4 to 5 years before we sold it. But we more so sold it because we had Home Service Academy, and that one was going so well that we felt like we just wanted to put all of our attention to one thing. And so we more so sold it to kind of just like free up some bandwidth of like our time and energy to focus on one thing that we felt like was going to take us a lot further. Looking back on it, did I have to sell it? Not really, because at the time it was like pretty, automated, because we had an admin that was basically running the whole business. I had like a 1 hour call with her like once a week, and then once in a while put out a fire here and there. But like, yeah, I think we were just so focused on this one business that we felt like it was the right thing to do.
So would you say now, having sold it, like, do you regret selling it? And also, like, what does that sale process look like with the business?
Do I regret selling it? No, because I mean, at the time it did help me, like free up like bandwidth and be able to focus all my energy on one thing. But I mean, if I were to do it again, I probably wouldn't sell it. But in terms of like selling a business or like even buying a business, I think a lot of people think that it's some crazy process when really it's not. Like, there's no rules to it. We bought a business before that was doing about $150,000 in revenue for $1,000 down, because we didn't have that much money. But like, we were able to, I know in like real estate, there's like creative financing deals. Same thing with buying businesses and selling them. So we were able to put $1,000 down and then give him a percentage of like these big jobs that he gave us. Because the whole reason we bought it was because we were able to clean a couple universities in the area. So in terms of selling our business, we actually sold it to like a past employee that started his own business. And it was really cool to see, actually, because, we gave him an asset that was making, $40,000, $50,000 a month. And for him, that was pretty life-changing. And we did it in a way where he only had to put down like, I think it was like 25%, and then pay us the rest over like 2 years. So it was like a win-win for everybody. And yeah, that was a process. It wasn't life-changing money for me or anything, just because of the circumstances. Like, we wanted to get rid of it quick, and we kind of understood it was more of like the opportunity cost of like that versus our current business.
And that's kind of the power of like all these creative financing strategies, whether it's real estate or business, is that there are ways to structure it to where it's a win-win situation for both, for the buyer and for the seller. And I mean, coming from the outside, a lot of people think that the seller is the only one that wins sometimes, but really you can structure it in the ways where the buyer will win. Like you said, you only put $1,000 down, and sometimes that's all the seller want. That's all they want is they just want to have less headaches and have some truly passive income coming in, which is hard to get.
100%. Like that guy, he was retiring and then moving from California to I think it was Idaho, I forget. But like if we didn't buy the business from him, it was basically going to be worth nothing. But at the end of the day, we probably ended up paying him out like close to $50,000. So what's better, you know?
Right. And how much did you sell that business for?
Well, that one, we wrapped it up into like our existing business. It was the same service. It was window cleaning. We just wanted to like add basically more business into ours.
Okay. But your window cleaning business, when you decided to sell that, how much did that sell for?
That one sold for like basically around $100,000.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then you decided to start on your cleaning business. So talk to us a little bit about that. Like, why did that come up? And it sounds like you kind of built that while you had this other one. So talk about why that came up and what that looks like now.
Well, everybody was asking us, how do you do it? Like, how do you have a remote cleaning business? And at the time, my friend Johnny was like putting it on Twitter, like kind of documenting the way that we do it, like explaining the day to day and how we structure the business. And people were like asking us, for advice. And we wanted to give advice, but at the same time, we felt a little bit of that imposter syndrome, which is like totally normal, right? Like, who am I to be giving people advice? Like, I'm just some like 20-year-old kid. And so we basically did it again to prove to ourselves and to other people, like, okay, we know what we're talking about. So Johnny's mom was driving Uber, and she was like tired of driving Uber. So like what we did was we spun up the business. It's called Marrying a Mop. And we had her basically run it, like the day-to-day stuff with like the cleaners and stuff like that. And the first month it did $12,000 in revenue. And at that point, we're like, okay, we know what we're doing. Like, we can replicate this. We can do it over and over again. And so, today that business does about $30,000 in revenue, and she's like crushing it. Like she makes like 10K plus per month from that business. Never has to drive Uber again. Like, that story is awesome in itself. But that was why we started it, was to basically prove to ourselves and to other people that, hey, this is replicatable. We can do it. And then that was basically our model for teaching other people how to do it. So that's kind of what led into like Home Service Academy and us being more of like the consulting side of it.
I think that's the cool thing about business too, is like not just what you can do for yourself, but obviously you're providing jobs for employees, but then you can change somebody's life. And in his case, his mom's life. I mean, that's incredible. So it's like, now you guys have this academy you're doing. So what does that look like? Has that opened up even more avenues to help a lot more people? And what is a membership for that? And how do people get involved?
Yeah. So, I mean, up to this point, we've helped like 100, like almost close to 1,000 people in the US and Canada. And it's really taken off, because at the end of the day, like, people understand house cleaning. Like, it's not rocket science. There's a lot of business opportunities. There's a million different ways to make money. That's something that I preach all the time, is like, you can make money doing anything. It's more about like what you choose to do. What do you want to make money in? But kind of forgot where I was going with this. But basically, Home Service Academy, yeah, we basically help people from A to Z, like set up the business, like from all the LLC stuff like that we were talking about, to how do you actually run the business and then grow it to a point where you have an admin in there that runs the day to day, and you don't need to be working on it full time.
And are these students of yours, are they starting remote cleaning businesses, or is it local businesses, or is it a blend of both?
So most of the people start in their local area because that's what they know, but it's still remote. So it's both, right? Like, you can run in your city, but never have to go out to a job, because you have the cleaners doing the jobs for you. You know what I mean?
And you guys are doing like commercial, or are you guys doing like Airbnb type stuff, or are you doing everything?
Everything, man. We have people start out mostly residential because that's the easiest thing to do. Or like cleaning one house is a lot easier than cleaning like a 5,000, 10,000 square foot commercial building. But like people definitely work their way up to that. And then they also like partner with Airbnb hosts, right? They need a ton of houses cleaned. Like there's just so much like look around, like how many houses and buildings are there that need to be cleaned? Like this isn't going anywhere. So there's a lot of opportunity out there.
So when somebody signs up with you guys, do you help them pick a location, I guess? Like, is there certain criteria that you set for your students? Like this is where you're going to have the most success in this type of an area, this size of a city. Like what kind of walk us through like what it looks like when you first sign up and how you pick your market?
100%. Yeah. There's definitely a way to see whether a market is like, okay, good, bad, or like really great. In general though, like most markets are really good unless you're completely in the boonies, middle of nowhere, like population 75 people, then that's probably not the best market. But yeah, I mean, you'd be surprised. Like we've had people that are in smaller towns, whether it's like a collection of like 6 towns or like a small metro, and they crush it. They do. So.
When you say small metro, do you mean like 25,000 plus, or do you mean actually like smaller, like 8,000-10,000 population type cities?
Yeah, I mean, I would say like in terms of like a general radius, like a county or something like that. Like I've seen it work with, like close to like 25 to like 100,000 people. Which compare that to like somewhere like LA or something. It's like a fraction of the people, but like it still works.
And are you guys like looking at competitors in the area and all that kind of stuff as well when you're analyzing a market?
Surprisingly, like yes and no. You would think we look at competitors to see like, is there too many competitors? Because if there is, then that might be a bad thing. But we're more so looking at the types of competitors, because if there's franchises in the area, that tells us they've already done their research and they think that this is a good market. So that means we should be here. Competitors aren't really like a threat, because at the end of the day, like people are going to go to like the best service. And as long as you can provide a good service, then word gets around pretty quickly that you're the go-to cleaning company. So, I mean, we started our window cleaning company back in the day in Orange County, and they had so many window cleaners in that area. And like somehow we stood out and became the number one like ranked company in the area, just by being great at customer service, great at like providing the service, and like getting a ton of reviews. So it's really not that hard to stick out, because in the home service industry in general, and maybe you guys see some of this in real estate, like the competition is not good. Like people are running their whole business on like a notepad, and they're just like not answering the phones. Like I tell people all the time, if you just answer the phone, you're already winning, because someone called 5 other cleaning companies that didn't answer. So
yeah,
it's not that hard to stand out.
That brings up some what's it called? What's the word? Sorry, Antoine, you can fix this. Yeah. PTSD. Yeah. Like I've been on the phone with, I'm not going to say which bank, but one of the like big banks, because I leased a car through them, and I'm going from one robot to the other robot to the other robot. And it's such a hassle. So, but I was going to mention, like, just be the best in the area and you let your competition do the research for you. So that's kind of a term that I've heard in a lot of real estate. Like some people they'll buy houses next to Chick-fil-A, or they'll buy houses next to a Whole Foods, because that massive company has obviously done a ton of research to see what type of market they want to be in. And so I think that's kind of a strength that you guys obviously have, is just letting all the marketing and all the research dollars go to some other company. But so talk about somebody who signs up with you. Like what would you said, was it your partner's mom that was driving Uber and then started, and she's making like 10 grand a month now. What would you say is the average, I guess, first month income on somebody who signs up with you guys?
First month, or just in general? Like,
or let's go in general. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I mean, in terms of our program, it's a 4-month program, and it's very strategic on why it's 4 months, because at one point in time, way back, it was like 12 months. People just didn't have the urgency that they needed. Like, you need that balance of like, I'm trying to get shit done like yesterday. And if you don't, then like you can procrastinate for like years, So we purposely make it 4 months. And on average, we want to see people making around 5 to 10K a month in total revenue. by the end of the 4 months. Some people like exceed that a lot, and some people are under that. But like, think about if you can join a program and have a business that makes, let's just say, even 10K a month recurring revenue. That doesn't go away. As long as you're running the business correctly, you have a stable $3,000 in profit for however long you want to run the business. So that's kind of our goal. It's like, we want to have you build a sustainable business that can make you money, for the rest of the time, as long as you have the business.
And you're having people start it to where they're not actually doing the cleaning themselves, right? You're having them, the way you're having them set it up is you're basically starting your own company where you're just on the outside looking in, running it and managing it, right?
Yeah, 100%. And like, I wish I started my business like that, like years ago. And, we had to learn the hard way to like clean the windows ourselves.
Yeah. So theoretically, you could have somebody start and then they're getting that 3,000 to 5,000 recurring revenue. And then they do the exact same thing. They take that blueprint and do it again in another location. And then at a certain point, you're just opening them up in a bunch of different locations and the cash flow is compounding.
Yeah. I mean, there's no reason why you can't do that.
Do you see a lot of your students that end up doing that?
There's not a ton of students that do that. And let me tell you why. You'd be surprised how much money one location can do. So that's something that we talk about, is like, it takes time, energy, like resources to open up a whole nother location, to get a whole nother set of cleaners and figure out all that logistics. If you could have one location that does, $50K per month in revenue, or have two locations that are doing 20, 25, which one would you pick? Right. And it's a 50K one location. It's just simpler that way. And then at that point, then you can start to think about, okay, now let me open up a new location. So, yeah, I mean, it's definitely doable. It's something that we're going to be doing. You mentioned earlier, we're starting a cleaning company in Vegas. So we're opening up a new, like, our own location in Vegas. And yeah, our plan is going to be like expand. So.
Yeah, I know. So we just moved. We bought a new house over here. We live in Green Bay, and we just moved a couple houses down the street, and we actually got some cleaners to take care of the new house before we moved in.
Nice.
And to your point, how like it's not hard to be the best. Like the people that we hired, they were in here. I want to say they had like 2 or 3 people in here for like 6 hours. And then my wife comes in and she's pretty particular about the way she cleans, and she like rubs her finger on it. And she's like, this is unacceptable. I can't believe it took 3 people 6 hours to do this terrible of a job. She's like, I could have done this by myself in a couple hours. So how do you find people that will, I don't know if it's take pride in their work ethic, or how do you find people that'll work to the standards?
I'd
that
say
your company
that,
sets?
and like, how are you monitoring that?
Yeah, that's a good question. It's like, a lot of people, it's funny, a lot of people have that same situation where they hire a cleaner, they suck, and then that's how they see like this is like an opportunity, right? But then their next question is always like, how do I find good cleaners? And it's a little bit in the vetting process, right? Like, because there is cleaners out there that take it very serious and like they do take pride in their work. But going back to like talking about Indeed, like we have something called the rule of 25. It's like someone isn't going to find their first really, really solid good cleaner until on average talking to 25 cleaners, right? But if you go into it without having that context, then you're going to pick up the phone, talk to 5 people, be like, this doesn't work. I talked to 5 crappy cleaners. But like, it's more so like the law of large numbers. Like, you call enough people, you'll find enough good cleaners. So it's a little bit of that. And then having good expectations. I think a lot of people don't have very clear expectations and then expect people to be up to par with their standards, but they never said what their standards were. So it's something like we have copy and paste in the program because we've done it so many times, but expectations are just like super key. And it's something that I remind people of so much that it probably gets annoying. But like, this goes with anything, like hiring or managing anybody. Like, just feel like you're over explaining your expectations, like say it over and over again so many times that to the point where like they have to understand and see your expectations.
I think that even applies in marriage, because it's like you come into marriage and it's like, I don't know if you're married, but like Josh and I are married. I'm actually married to Josh's sister, but the
Oh, it's all
yeah.
connected.
But so I blame.
Everybody always has the same
I know, they
reaction when they
laugh.
find that out.
They're just like, what?
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like, I had a certain way I did things, and now I've got this person living in my place, and it's like I'm expecting her to do everything the way I did it, and I've always done it. And it's like, without communicating that and communicating the expectations, it just doesn't get done. And then you're upset, and it's like, well, hey, like, you didn't communicate that. So that's definitely, in this case, it's got to be huge.
I was wondering which way you were going to take that. Like, it's just like marriage.
No, but just but like you said,
No,
it's like business. It's everything. It's real estate. It all goes back to communication, I think, which is.
Yeah. And I mean, with marriage, it's even harder, I think, because like, even though I preach this, like, over communicate expectations, I probably don't do the best job in my relationship. Right.
Yeah.
And I think it can be hard. And yeah.
I can't remember who said it, but there was one podcaster, one person that I heard say that, like, when you first hire somebody, it's going to seem, and it depends on when you implement the expectations, it's going to seem a whole lot like micromanagement, unless you set it from the start and then you you use that for a very short amount of time at the beginning, and then they're good to go. But if you let them try to do what they're used to doing, and then you come in and try to set expectations, that's when it seems like micromanagement. So you got to make sure that you do it right off the bat, so so you're not coming across as a micromanager.
Yeah,
setting the expectations.
Yeah, I've had to learn that lesson the hard way, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, I said that. I heard somebody else say that. I didn't, not because I know that from my experience.
Yeah. Do you ever have like any issues with employees or anybody like that? Like, I guess one of my things that I've thought about with a service type business like this, where you are remote and you're not actually hands on, is like, what's to stop somebody from just going and saying like, well, I'm doing all the work, like, I'm just going to go run this myself. And does that happen?
Well, specifically in our business model, like, since we're hiring contractors, like, we have a mutual agreement, understanding like, you're your own business. It's kind of like Uber for like house cleaning. Like, they have their own business, they have their own like cleaning accounts, and it's like, we're just gonna give you extra accounts so you can make more money. So I mean, they have their own accounts. I mean, some people coming into the program sometimes fear, are the cleaners going to take my jobs that I gave them? Right. And that's something that could happen. But it goes back to expectations. You set the expectation like, hey, this is like our job, and you're basically like showing up to like do the work. But if you were to take the job, then we would just stop giving you work. Yeah.
So one topic that comes up all the time, especially in real estate investing, is good debt versus bad debt. Do you have a lot of your people that go through your program, do they need to take out debt? Because I know you said you were able to start your window cleaning business with $150. But do you typically need to take out some sort of debt or lines of credit to start a business like this?
I mean, the great thing about like home service in general is that it's a very lean startup cost. I mean, if you compare it to something like, since we're talking about real estate, like, I know there's definitely lean types of real estate too, but like buying a house is a lot of money. To start a cleaning business like this, you can do with less than $1,000. So, I mean, if you have a couple $1,000s in savings, you usually don't need to take out debt to start a cleaning business.
So now, like, you sold the business, you've got the academy going now. So what's kind of like a day-to-day for you now? What does that look like?
That's a good question. I just did a TikTok today, like, explaining how something they don't tell you about business, like getting into business, is like, you're actually going to work more. And it's not because your boss is telling you to work more, because you don't have a boss, but it's because you want to work more. And like, that's always been the case for me. I'm always like super, super passionate about just growing the business and like putting in as much as I can. So for me, day to day, at this point in time, I have a team of like 20, 22 people. So I have like a good amount of like the day to day stuff in the business delegated. So I'm more focused on, how can we, one, improve the overall product itself, because that's going to drive the most change. And then just like the operations of like the whole business, because we have a vision of like where we want to take it, but how are we going to make it happen? So that's kind of like what I'm focused on. I have meetings with people on my team and stuff like that, and like have a couple group calls like with people in the academy. But yeah, my day to day is kind of like it's different. It's different every day.
Are you doing any other kind of investing?
That's a good question. No, not really. I haven't been like really a big investor just because I feel like I've learned the lesson of like being a good business owner doesn't necessarily mean a good investor. Like they're two completely different things. And I've put money into like things that I don't understand before, and it just kind of like blew my money. So I kind of like took a step back and reassess like what I want to invest in. And I think if I were to invest into something next, it'd probably be real estate, but not so much from like I'm trying to build a real estate empire perspective, but more so from like a cash, like I guess like tax preservation type of perspective, and like maybe a little bit of cash flow type of thing. But I really, really like go all in on business when I'm in it. So at least at this point in my life. I mean, you guys tell me if you guys disagree with me, because I know you guys are real estate investors.
No, I mean, you're investing in yourself, and we had somebody on a couple of weeks ago who lost a bunch of money investing in other people's deals, and there was definitely it's sometimes it's tough, but you can take care of your money better than anybody else can. So that's definitely, if you do want to invest, obviously come to us. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, make sure that you vet whoever you're giving your money to, because it's not everybody's as motivated to make your money work for you as you will be, or as we will be.
Yeah, it's
definitely.
Yeah, well, but like you said, it's your money. It's you have a strong work ethic. You know that, and it's like, I mean, that's been my holdup with stocks and stuff like that. It's like I don't understand it enough, so it's like I don't want to get into that personally at this point in my life. I know a lot of people doing really well with it, but it's not something I understand or trust right now.
Yeah. And I'm really good at buying like at the top of the market. Like in 2020, when everybody was talking about all this crypto, I was like, I'm getting in now. And then I made sure that it was like about to come down, and I bought in right then, and then it came all the way down. So I'm done with stocks and crypto and all that stuff, because to your point, I don't understand it. But I do understand real estate, and that's where actually all of my money at this point is.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, put your money where your knowledge is.
But you kind of touched on something. You kind of just with the tax. I don't want to say tax avoidance, but essentially that's what you
tax deferring. You never skip taxes. Right. You're just postponing.
But it's like so now you've built this successful company. You're doing well, and at a certain point, you do have to kind of consider that type of stuff, because you get so successful, and if you're not doing things right, if you're not investing, if you're not whatever, like you're just giving all that money right back to the government. And at that point, it's like, well, why keep building? So something like real estate is great for that. And I mean, we've kind of seen that through depreciation and stuff. You can offset a lot of your earnings. So I think that's an important next step for anyone in business.
Yeah, I mean, just being transparent, I don't really know too much about it. You definitely know more than I do, so I'll probably be talking to you guys more about like real estate investing when that time comes. But as of right now, I'm just like super focused on like Home Service Academy, building that like as big as, I mean, we have a huge number, like $100 million. Like that's our North Star. That's where we want to get to. And it's going to take a lot of work to get there. So
is that what you're gunning for, that sales price, $100 million? Because I mean, I know businesses, and I'm not that like super familiar with it, but I know businesses sell on different multiples of how much revenue they generate.
Yeah.
So are you looking for 100 million in revenue or 100 million sales price?
We want to have a business that is worth $100 million. And for that to happen, it's probably going to have to be somewhere around like 20 to like $50 million in profit per year. So like, it's going to be a big freaking business.
A lot of windows.
Yeah, a lot of houses to clean.
Well, you mentioned earlier, and I think like just in talking, to you about business, like I just from hearing what you've done, like I would say you're probably more along the way of knowing and understanding business. We might know a little more about real estate than you, but definitely not more than a lot of people. But that imposter syndrome you mentioned earlier, like I don't know if that was before we started recording, but it's as we talked about launching this podcast and putting stuff out there, it's just like, who are we to talk about this stuff? But I think it's just the goal is to just create like this community and this place where people can come and get information from other people that aren't like Grant Cardone, that are like a little more relatable. So I think it's, I think it's cool what you guys are doing, and that's what we're shooting for here as well.
No, I totally agree. I feel like I've had that imposter syndrome myself. Like, who am I to teach people? But there's always going to be someone that can learn from you. Even if you're on step 2, there's someone on step 1, right? And then obviously there's people way ahead of you. And I mean, that's all I'm trying to do is like put value out for the people that are maybe step or 2 under me.
Right. And you said recently you guys started a podcast. Is that kind of tied into the academy that you're doing, or is that something separate?
So the podcast is not really tied to the academy. Just me and Johnny love talking about business in general. Like, we'll just find like the most random businesses that make $200 million that you never heard of. And we'll just like talk about it and like talk about just exciting things that we're seeing in business. So that's more so just a show for me and Johnny to like talk business and for our audience to get to know us on a more like personal level. Because at this point in time, like a lot of our content is like just straight value. Like, this is how you do this. This is how you do that. But like, we wanted people to like get to know us more on a personal level. And I think a podcast is like great for that. I think it's great that we're both starting podcasts right now.
What's the name of your podcast?
The Johnny and Sergio Show.
So to everyone listening, go and follow the Johnny and Sergio Show, but support us just slightly more because we made a bet before this.
Exactly.
Yeah. We're gonna compare statistics at 3 months.
Racing, so just slightly more toward no. But yeah, that's cool, and we'll get that all in the show notes and like plug you at the end here too. So
yeah, no, I think it's awesome what you guys are doing, because like the nursing community could definitely use more like business related content. Like, no one tells you like what you can do after high school. It's just all the normal occupations. That's why I went to engineering, because I'm like, there's only 10 to pick from, and engineering seems like the best one. But like, you start to find out that there's literally a million different ways to like make a living, and you don't got to be stuck in one your whole life. You could change, and that's okay. Everyone thought I was stupid for like getting an engineering degree and then not doing engineering, but like, I'm fine. I'm good. So
yeah, we're doing better than you would if you stuck. Well, stuck
a lot of these like high ticket, like, lawyers and doctors, like I managed a building in Los Angeles, and we just hired a plumber, and they're charging $185 an hour. Like, I was never going to make $185 an hour as a nurse. So it's like, like there's tons of stuff out there. You don't have to go to college. You don't have to pick one of those 10 careers. It's like, there's so much out there for
you. Yeah, that's okay.
So we'll go ahead and jump into our final segment. It's the final 4. No, we changed it to the final 5. Sorry. So it's final 5 because we have 5 questions.
We kept doing a final 4 with a bonus question. So we were just, maybe we should just call it the final 5.
All right, hit me with it.
All right. So what's the top financial resource that you go to for financial resources?
Like a book or a podcast?
Yeah.
Dude, man, that's a good question. I mean, my favorite podcast is My First Million, and it's not really a financial one, but it's more. It talks about business, and they talk so much about like different opportunities that it starts changing your perspective on how you see the world. You start seeing opportunities different, and like I think there's an argument there that could be financial, because all it takes is for you to see the right opportunity for you to make more money. Right. So I would give a shout out to My First Million. That podcast is freaking awesome.
And so we tailor the second one to like nurses, but in your case, I guess like coming out of high school, what advice would you give yourself?
Coming out of high school, I would tell myself not to stress so much about like the whole entire like the destination, because I think I was really stressed about like, I have to have my whole life planned out, figured out, and I have to do everything according to that plan. But then you guys, like seen in my story that I completely changed paths, and that's okay. And so I would have just told myself like, don't stress so much. I got gray hairs already. It's probably from stressing about that. So yeah.
I got a few grays, but Colin takes the cake on that
I
one.
got plenty. And being a 20-year-old as well, like it's like
okay. Colin's living the 29-year-old dream as a 37-year-old.
Whatever. It's all about how you feel. I still feel 20.
All right. So question 3 is, what is your big goal for the next 12 months? I know you said your goal is to get to 100 million or sell your company for 100 million, but what's a 12-month goal that you guys have?
Dude, our 12-month goal is to just like get these cleaning businesses off the ground and have as many as possible profitably running. So like if we were to like run this podcast back again, like in a year, I think we'll have probably around 5 to 10 locations across the US somewhere, but eventually gonna get it to like 100 plus.
And if you were to sell your company right now, how much do you think it would sell for? That's just more of my curiosity question.
I mean, if I'm being like super realistic, someone's looking at a company in terms of like how much money is it going to continue making, and like how risk averse is it. So I'd probably say somewhere around like 3 to like 6 million.
Not too shabby.
That's not a little.
And does that include the academy, or is that just cleaning?
No, that's the academy.
And is that okay? So that's like everything. All right. So I guess number 4. If you were to tell people to do one thing right now, one like a action or whatever, what would you tell them to do to kind of change their financial outlook?
Well, I'm assuming if you're listening, I'm assuming if you listen to this podcast, you're a nurse and you're thinking about investing some money that you have. You're thinking about getting into like some side hustle, and like it's like I said earlier, just do something. Like whether just any side hustle that you're interested in starting, just start it, and you'll figure out pretty quickly if you like it, don't like it, if it's the right thing or not, and you can just do something else. So stop overthinking and just start doing.
Yeah, that's kind of the premise of our podcast is investing RN, because registered nurse, but also right now. Like we believe that you got to do something. You got to start right now.
Oh yeah, I see what you did
Right now.
there.
You see how clever that is?
We so smart. No, I'm kidding. All right. All right. So the final, or the 5th question now, it's no longer the bonus question. It's number 5. Is, what's the biggest financial mistake you've made, and what did you learn from it?
Whoa. Okay. I mean, guys, I have there was a month this year where we were negative $90,000. That's a pretty big financial mistake, right?
Yeah.
It's not that the business was a mistake. We just learned a lot of lessons in terms of like we scaled a little too fast. We got too excited, hiring too much, but we got kind of inefficient with our marketing, and we lost a good amount of money. Overall in the year we're net positive. So it's like we lost the battle of that month, but still winning the war. So I'm still good, but
I was gonna say bonus question.
That's quite the hole you dug.
We got a new bonus question.
Bonus number 2.
How'd you get through that?
Yeah, I think, well, one, like mentally, it's understanding that you're in business, you're going to fail. Like you're gonna have these small failures along the way. Just when you thought you had everything figured out, you thought you were like good at business, like something's gonna hit you with the left hook out of nowhere, and it's gonna be like you suck. So I think I had to learn a lesson, be humbled a little bit, and it was just like, what are we gonna do to like learn from these mistakes that we made? And that's like the only best thing you can do whenever you make any kind of mistake. Learn from the lesson.
Yeah, that's kind of what we're trying to do here as well, is like build a community of people who want to do things that are hard, because to succeed, you need other people that are doing things around you. And I mean, on social media, you see a lot of the highs and you don't really see a lot of the lows. So we want to be here to support people that are in the middle of it, because there are going to be lows and they're going to be really hard to get through unless you have people around you that are also doing hard things.
100%.
Well,
so with that,
yeah,
Colin?
So where can people kind of reach out and get in contact with you and find out what's going on?
Yeah, I mean, if you look up Johnny and Sergio, like on any social, you'll find us like YouTube, Instagram, just kind of anywhere. And through that, you can find the podcast, Johnny Sergio Show, or you can find the Academy. So, yeah.
Cool, sounds good. All right, go give them a follow, see what they're doing, give them some support.
Slightly less.
Lightly less.
Just for the podcast. Just the podcast. You can support everything else fully, but the podcast is slightly less.
No, thanks for having me, guys. Seriously, appreciate it. I wish you guys like all the success, but just us a little bit more success. And
I'm glad they put you at the wrong table.
Yeah, we'll have to run this podcast back again in the future and see where we're at.
Oh, I look forward to it. Yeah, we'll have you back on in 3 months as long as we are winning. Then if Sergio doesn't ever come back on, it's because they're winning. No, I'm just kidding. No. All right, sounds good. Well, all right, take care.